Hi, friend, and welcome to the Fruitful Podcast, where we share stories of faith, family, and fruitfulness. I'm Sherry Lynn Roodman, or in English, Sherry Lynn Roodman, and this podcast is something really special to me. Every episode features my mom, Lynette Steyn-Lourens, and these are her original radio interviews, especially for Just Gospel Radio. And these are heartfelt conversations filled with wisdom, hope, and reminders that faith is found in the everyday. I wanted to share them here so they could keep encouraging hearts in new seasons and new spaces. Let's listen together to one of my mom's original conversations that still speaks so deeply today.
Good afternoon or good morning, listeners. And we are back and we are talking about parenting styles. So how nice to be back. We are still doing our 3-part series on parenting styles or disciplining your children and setting boundaries for your children. And the past 2 weeks we have looked at different styles, and we have looked at why it's necessary to set boundaries and what is the word of God saying about setting boundaries for your children. And what we've learned was that definitely the word of God says we need to discipline our children. We even looked at quite a few of the examples out of the Bible. Looking, for instance, at Eli and his unruly sons, because he didn't discipline them and he didn't set boundaries for them. They just did what they wanted and what the result of that was. So you can go and read about that. And then we also looked at Hannah that loved his son and had a very good parenting style with him, and in the end giving him back to the Lord and entrusting him to Eli so that he could work for the Lord, but not abdicating her parenting role, still visiting him at the temple and still being his parent. We also looked very shortly at Joseph and Maria as the earthly parents of Jesus, and how they set boundaries and how they brought him up. And that is such a good example of how we want our children to grow up. If they can grow up like Jesus, it would be really a blessing to them. And then we looked at the Reuben Hill, Minnesota study, and he studied quite a few thousands of families and the style of parenting and what resulted from that. And we saw there that he basically had 4 different styles, and we discussed them in short: the permissive style, the neglectful parent, the authoritarian parent, and the authoritative parent. And we said that the one we really would like to follow is the authoritative parents, because they are fellowshipping parents and they build the self-esteem and the coping skills of their children, and actually preparing them for a future and not just ruling them in the house, but developing their life skills so that they will one day be able to stand by themselves and by themselves as mature adults. So today we are going forward with our discussion. This is number 3 of the series, and the last one of the series that we are spending on setting boundaries and disciplining your children. And we are talking about effective parenting techniques. And this involves creating a supportive and nurturing environment while also setting clear boundaries and expectations for your children. So, key strategies include positive reinforcement, active listening, setting limits, and being a good role model. The day that you became a parent was the day that your life is not your own anymore. Being a parent takes a lot of responsibility, and it also takes accountability. You need to look at your own life, and you need to be okay with the way that you are setting an example for your child. And as I mentioned before, raising my own children, it was one thing, disciplining them in one way, but thinking that one day they will repeat this behavior when disciplining my grandchildren. That made me think twice about it. So maybe you're in the same boat as I am. But we are going to look at different styles or different techniques that we can use in parenting, just so that we can understand them better. And I believe each parent uses a combination of these, and it also depends on each child. You need to know your child. For some children, one thing works. For other children, the other thing works. And not just different children, but also different stages in life where they are. So it's good to know or have knowledge of all of them, and then to use what you think is important. And for me, the important thing is that you don't just do something. Think and then act. You can't just react on what your child is doing. You need to think and then act, because you need to know why you are doing what at that specific stage. So intentional parenting is the key. So ask yourself, what are you doing and why are you doing it like this? And if you cannot answer, you may have to go back and check your own motives. When you are disciplining, you need to know what you want to accomplish with this discipline. Is it that you just want to correct behavior? In other words, what your child is doing is morally wrong or putting somebody in danger? Or do you want to discipline because you are irritated and tired, or you just don't like what the child is doing at the moment? Check your motive. So you also need to check why you are disciplining, or the way you are disciplining. Will it accomplish what you would like to accomplish? Every child, each child has got a different nature, and each child will need a different way of correcting behavior or forming their behavior. Children are unique and they differ from each other. What may work for one child may not work for the other. Spanking may work for, say, instance, a little girl who's more sensitive, and it may be terrible for her to receive a spanking. And for a boy, he'll laugh it off. He'll take the spanking and he'll go on as if nothing happened and do the same behavior. But maybe taking away some of his privileges may be a way of correcting his behavior. For instance, if he's used to watching television at night and have half an hour television time, he did something wrong today and we need to correct that behavior. So today, no, you are not going to watch this television. You need to do something else. But then connect it with the behavior that needs to be corrected. For instance, if he didn't pick up his dirty clothes when he had to and you need to correct that behavior, you're not going to watch your half an hour television tonight, but you are rather going to help mommy to put the washing into the washing machine. So that can also help. But let's look at the different positive parenting techniques that I've got listed here. And I'm sure there's more than just these, but the ones that I'm going to highlight. The first one is active listening. You need to pay attention to your child's thoughts and feelings, reflecting them back to show that you are understanding what they are feeling. We talk about keeping in the room of feeling, just talking feelings, no facts, just feelings. Name the emotions you read in your child's behavior. Keep eye contact with your child and go down to your child's level. I mean, go down physically on your knees to be on your child's level so that you meet them there. And then while you are talking to them, of course, meet them on their emotional and developmental level as well. It doesn't help your child you are speaking this important, very grand language and they do not understand what you mean. Make sure that they understand what you mean. Here I'm thinking as an example about my daughter whose son is nearly 2. He's a week from 2 years old. And she doesn't tell him, don't tantrum. She tells him, you are raging. It's a rage. He's feeling this rage of emotions running through him. And then she mimics it and she tells him, this is rage. And she shows him and she reflects it back to him. And then she says, that's not a way to do it because I can't understand that. And then she talks to him about it. And I know tantruming is a thing that happens at 2 years. And it seems like our children do not understand if we reflect the feelings back to them. But actually with time, they will start understanding. So if at that stage you want to use active listening and your child is throwing a tantrum, go down to their level, take them on your lap and tell them, I can see you are raging. There's a lot of emotions going through you. You are not happy at the moment. And talk to them in a calm voice and guide them through it. And once they calm down, you can discuss it with them and say, what made you so unhappy? Why are you unhappy? Are you raging, feeling all these emotions because you wanted something that you cannot have? This is the reason why you cannot have it. This is the circumstance that needs to change so that you can have it. Or sometimes it's also a good idea to ask your child or give them a choice between two things. I understand you are raging because you want to have a chocolate now. You cannot have the chocolate now because you cannot have sweets before eating your food. So you have a choice now. You're going to finish your lunch, eat everything, and have the chocolate, or you're going to leave your lunch and not have the chocolate. What are you choosing? What's your choice? And then, of course, you have to stay with the choice that they are making. If they say no, they will eat their lunch, let them eat the lunch and then provide the chocolate. Or if they say, no, I don't want my lunch, you cannot give the chocolate later. Okay, then the second one I'm mentioning here is positive reinforcement. Acknowledge and praise good behavior, to encourage that it will happen again, to encourage its repetition. The challenge is to ignore negative behavior and only give attention when there is positive behavior. This is very difficult, and I found this very difficult. If the child is throwing stuff around, it was very difficult for me to look the other way. And just now when they stop throwing around and they're playing nicely with their toys, to give attention then and tell them, you are playing very nicely now. So me as a parent, I found it very difficult. But positive reinforcement can work, but it takes time to work. Giving them a negative feedback may immediately get a result of them stopping to throw the toys, but tomorrow you may have to do it again. Where the positive reinforcement, after you've done it for a while, the negative behavior will stop automatically, because children wants to please you. They're not born malicious that they want to make you unhappy. So after a while, they will realize, when I am behaving and I am doing the correct thing, I get attention from my parents, so I would rather do the correct thing. And of course, the opposite is also true. If you give your child attention, even if it's negative attention, when they are misbehaving, they will keep on with that behavior, because the technique of disciplining negative behavior still gives them your attention. So if they want attention, they will do anything to get it. So rather reinforce positive behavior or good behavior, and then they will start repeating this behavior because they want your attention. So it may be, even though it takes some time to show any results, it may be worth the while. Then the third one here is setting limits. Establish clear rules and boundaries, and be consistent when you reinforce them. I like to not set a lot of rules, but rather teach my children some values, like, for instance, respect. I am not going to take something that belongs to somebody else because I respect their ownership of it. I am not going to scream and shout because I respect somebody else, and I'm not going to treat them as if they are not worthy and shout at them, or even pollute their ears with my shouting, because I respect them. But then, of course, you have to show your child that you respect them as well. But choose some values and teach your children values. Then you don't have to have all these rules in the house. For instance, if you have a bowl full of sweets, your child can't take the whole bowl full of sweets and eat them. They can have 2, because there's still other people in the house that also need sweets, so we respect them as well. So each get 2. When the child exceeds the limit of boundaries that you have set, it helps to make it uncomfortable for them not to keep with the limit that you have set. So if the child, for instance, don't want to eat their food, and the limit you set was that you need to eat your food because it's healthy, then rather than to eat a dessert or a chocolate or whatever afterwards, that's the limit that you've set. They have to eat their food. Then you can say, you don't want to eat your food, so you have to stay sitting here at the table until you have eaten all your food. So later on it will be uncomfortable for them. You will be maybe watching television or doing something else that they want to partake in, but they haven't eaten their food yet. So they have to stay sitting there, and it's starting to get uncomfortable. And then encourage them more to stay within the limit, eat their food, and then they can get up. Even though they are throwing tantrums or they are complaining, stay with it. And they have to stay sitting there until they're done. Then the fourth one here is role model. And this is something that we as parents can't get past. We need to be a role model to our children. Be a positive example by demonstrating the desired behaviors and attitude. We know, and we've said it so many times, children copy and paste. They do what they see. And they will do as you do and not do as you say. So, show them how to act. Show them good behavior. You eat all your food. You finish your plate, even the vegetables. And don't complain about the vegetables. It doesn't help at all if you eat your vegetables but you complain about it. Eat your vegetables and smile about it, because you're teaching your child something there. And then, for instance, caring for your neighbor. Teach your neighbor, your children love your neighbor. But don't just say it. Actually do something, like giving the beggar next to the road an orange and a water. And tell them this is an act of loving your neighbor. Show it out to them so that they will know. If there's a friend at the nursery school or school that do not have proper food, put in an extra sandwich and say, this is for that child, so that you can share with them, because we love our neighbors. And when they fight about different toys, remind them of loving your neighbor as you love yourself, and share the toys as mommy shares her bread pan with the neighbor next door, or a book with the neighbor next door. Show them your behavior so that they see it, that you can model desired behavior with them, to them. Then communication. Engage in open and honest conversations with your child, explaining the reasons behind rules and expectations. Of course, on their level. You're not going to go into a deep, difficult conversation with a 3-year-old. But a 3-year-old knows how to switch on your cell phone. So if you have a conversation with them, they can figure out what you're trying to tell them if you stay on their level. And a child that understands why they shouldn't behave in a certain way don't need to be reminded not to act that way. They understand, so they will try not to do it again, or they should try not to do it again. And if they don't, if they do it again, then further communication. And I know it's not an instant thing. This is a journey with your child. So then you explain again. Empathy. Try to understand your child's perspective, especially during challenging situations and challenging times. Try to see the world from their eyes. What is happening to them? Why are they feeling that way? Why are they acting that way? Try to have insight in their behavior. And if you don't have insight, ask non-threatening questions to understand the behavior. And then you can talk to them about it. And you can talk to them about possible solutions so that they will correct their behavior. Then discipline, but not punishment. Discipline focus on guiding and teaching into appropriate behavior, rather than resorting to harsh punishment and reacting to what your child has done wrong. So talk to the child again. Explain why the behavior is not okay. My one friend, for instance, had her primary school daughter that for sometimes just went into an emotional overload. She kind of exploded emotionally. And after a while, Mommy decided, but this is not working for us. This is not working for us as a family, and this is not working out in society. So she talked to her daughter about it. And then her daughter said, but sometimes she doesn't know why she feels like it, but she just needs to get this emotion out. So they talked about it and they together found a solution. And Mommy explained to her that each person have got a bucket inside of them. And sometimes that bucket just gets so full that it overflows. And if she feels that her bucket is very full, it's nobody around her's fault, so they don't need to suffer because of her full bucket. She needs to empty her bucket, but where it does not influence other people around her. So they came to the agreement, if she feels her bucket is full, she will go around the corner or she will go into a room and she will have a nice crying session and she will empty her bucket. And this had such a good impact on this little girl that her mom witnessed her at a party the one day. And the one friend was just crying and crying. And the daughter went up to that friend and said, I understand. Your bucket is full and you need to empty your bucket. But our friends at the party didn't have anything to do with your bucket filling up. So she took her around the corner and she held her while the friend emptied her bucket around the corner, and then the playing went on again. So that was such a nice story for me and an example of how to guide your child and how to not punish but discipline and guide them. Then spend quality time with each child. Make time for one-on-one interactions with your child to strengthen your bond with your child and build trust with them. Doesn't matter how many children you have. I had this golden rule in my house of spending 10 minutes per day with each child. And then we had simple discussions. Things like, what was the best part of your day today? What was the worst part of your day today? What did you do that you feel you can do different next time? What did you do that you feel you did very good today? And we had these 10-minute conversations, and sometimes a little bit longer if it was the need of the child, but 10 minutes each child every day, and it kept our communication open for years. It is important. Put your child to bed at night and have a short quality time conversation with them to hear about their day. Then be present. Pay attention to your child and their needs, both in structured activities and just in everyday moments. Be there. Leave work at work and be present at home. Put down your phone. Switch off the computer. Switch off the TV and just be in your child's world. do what they want to do. If they want to crawl on the ground, you crawl on the ground. If they want to crawl into a tent, you crawl into the tent. If they want to lie on their backs and look at the stars, you do that. If they want to read a story, you do that. If they want to play They Are Frogs, you do that. If they want to play cowboys and crooks and be outside in the garden, you play with them. If they want to throw a ball, you do that. But go into your child's world. Experience your child's world. Be present there with them. And this opens a world to them and a world to you of understanding between you. Then turn mistakes into learning opportunities. Help your child understand the consequences of their actions and learn from them. Discuss the situations and the outcomes. Discuss what do they feel they did right, and what do they feel they should change, so next time they will act differently. Discuss this with them and get them to have insight in their own behavior, their own actions, but you also get to learn to know your child better. Then consider their developmental stage. Adjust your parenting approach as your child grows and matures, and this is important. You cannot treat your teenager in the same way that you treat your primary school child. You have to adjust as they grow up. Now, the Bible provides guidance on parenting, and it emphasizes love, instruction, and discipline. But it doesn't exactly define our modern parenting styles. Instead, it offers principles that can be applied to various styles, encouraging parents to nurture, guide, and discipline their children in a way that reflects God's love and character. Children is a blessing to us. The Bible views children as a gift and a blessing from God. They are borrowed to you, parent, by God to bring them up. So we as parents have a responsibility to care for them and guide them in faith. We need to give them spiritual instruction. Parents are called to teach their children about God, His Word, and His ways, encouraging them to love and follow Jesus. We need to discipline them with love. Discipline is presented as an act of love in the Bible, but it should be done in a way that doesn't provoke anger or discouragement to the child. Parents must encourage their children to live in a way that reflects God's character, and they must model this character and be an example to their children. And then children are taught to honor their parents, and parents must encourage them to do so by respecting their children and act towards them in love and not provoke the children. So that is very important. But what an honor to be selected by God to be a parent. That is really an honor. And I said just now that children do not belong to you. They are borrowed to you. God gave them to you to bring up. And we need to bring up little mini-me's so that they one day will be mature adults, stand in their place in the world and in a place where they can work for the kingdom of God, a place where they can be independent from you with the strong roots still holding fast to their upbringing and the house that they grew up in, the home that they grew up in. So this is my prayer for you, parents, that you will be able to do that you will one day be able to launch your little mini-me's into the world, and that they will be able to be independent, mature adults living Christian lives, working for God and His kingdom. So I hope this series helped you. I hope this encouraged you as parents. And my prayer for you is that you will one day look back and say, I did everything I could, everything that God asked of me to bring up good and balanced children for Him. So have a lovely week. I will talk to you again next week. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Fruitful Podcast, originally produced for Just Gospel Radio. used with permission. You can find more at fruitfulfig.ca/links or support the work at buymeacoffee.com/fruitfulfig. And remember, every fig has a season.
Critical